Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to RLCS Overtime, your one-stop shop for all things Rocket League and RLCS eSports. I'm your host, Wavepunk, and I've got a findable carpet and the James Bot. Guys, the regular season is over. It's done. We have the playoffs next week. It's going to be exciting. How are you guys feeling?
Well, I mean, NA EU Regional Championships around the corner, and then, you know, with the announcing that those 2 bids per region up for Season 4 League play are also on the table, the teams are really going to give it their all this weekend.
So I'm really not going to lie, getting that week break to just like kind of prep myself for next week, because it means so much for so many teams. I mean, you know, we've gotten to meet a lot of these players in person at LAN, and to know the pressure they're under is like, I'm scared for them a lot of the time. And then when you watch somebody just not make it out, like I feel so much emotion for the teams that both make it and don't make it. So it's going to be a really stressful week for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally resonate with that. That I feel like I always empathize more with the team that doesn't make it than celebrate with the team that wins. But at the end of the day, you got to celebrate the winners. It's going to be so much fun to be able to have those playoffs and then have the Worlds right after. But with the regular season, we're not quite done talking about it here, as we introduced that there was going to be player accolades given out at the end of the regular season. The regular season's over, so we're ready to do that. We have our Golden Striker Award for NA here, and the winner is Fireburner.
Bum-ba-dum.
Bum-ba-dum. There it is. That is the Golden Striker Award. Awarded to the clinical finisher who scored the most goals per game in league play for their region. $500 award here. Going to be going to Fireburner. The close runner-ups were Matt and Jacob, but it was Fireburner with that .92 goals per game.
Absolutely no surprise. Fireburner's been the lead scorer every single season in North America, but Matt and Jacob both close on his heels.
And just to emphasize, we are doing goals per game because every team might play different amounts of games, and it'll be unfair to just go by the raw total amount. But as we know, Fireburner, one of the most consistent strikers. We talked about it in Season 1, especially leading into Season 2.
Yeah, Fireburner has just been so good every single season of finding the back of the net. He has excellent shooting percentage as well, so he is just 100% surgical. But Matt was another one of those players that was also quite good, but narrowly missing out on that one. But though Jacob, I thought, was a big key to Fireburner's success, and we'll see on that later about how many assists he had, but Fireburner just so good yet again this season.
Yeah, we talked about how Jacob was really lighting up and doing a lot of scoring, where last season it was Fireburner doing all the finishing. You saw Jacob was there in 3rd place, but it was Fireburner for you. No big surprise here. Cookser97, the god himself, the MVP of Season 2.
He's really never let us down.
Never.
And again, with Greasy and Marky Duda at his side, it really helps as well. He's always been the cement of his team. He always is the guy that whenever something presents itself, maybe Marky Duda did something really weird or him and Greasy worked well together, Cooksier will be there to finalize the shot. In the last week, we saw a lot of inconsistency, but it just goes to show he did that well earlier in the season that he still came out in first.
Yeah, normally Cooks, he really shines in the live event atmosphere. In the World Championships, he plays quite well. Normally in league play, Marky Duda is the one scoring all these goals, but Cookser this season, he really stepped up during league play and helped Flipside secure at least the top 6 bid. They narrowly missed out on the top 2, but still, Cookser, a scoring machine this season. And really, if you were watching last week of league play, the one goal that he had in the final seconds of the game is what clinched it for him. Otherwise, K-Dub would have won.
But then in the Oceania region, a thing that we don't get to talk about as much around here because we cover so much of the European and the North American scenes, but Drip A leading here by a substantial margin at 1 point to the only guy we've seen so far that actually scored more than 1 goal a game, as Oceania was a very high-scoring region, as you can see here, and we'll see some more about Drip A later.
Yeah, you said it. Every single one of these players finishing 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, they all had over a goal a game average. OC just likes to score.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that could be attributed to that. It could either be they just don't play as much defense. Maybe they just like the high-scoring games. If both teams just go all out, you might as well just try and outperform. Or maybe there's a pretty stern gap between those top 3 teams and then the teams that are right following suit. If there's a big gap, then yeah, you're probably going to get your stats a bit beefed up, but that doesn't take away from the skill in those top teams to be able to score that much. I mean, 1.2, that's a significant.
Drip A went. He just carried his team.
That's insane.
Certainly did. But that does it for the Golden Striker Award here. Moving on to the Clutch Playmaker, the player who gets the most assists per game. That $500 award, as you can see there. Quick description of how the award works. In North America, again, we saw his name once already, but this time Jacob's going to be in the first place spot. And it only makes sense that the top goal scorer and the top assists per game would be on the same team.
Yeah, I predicted Fireburner to be the MVP, but Jacob was just stellar this year. You see here 0.92 assists per game and also finishing third in goals per game. He just was a huge key to the NRG success, making some absolutely insane goals and passes all season long.
And who the real hero? Did Jacob get the highest assists per game because Fireburner kept scoring? Or did Fireburner get the most goals per game because Jacob kept passing it to him? Who's the real hero? The belt or the pants?
Dapper said it in his interview. People do not like playing against Jacob because his play style is so unpredictable. He's so good. So Jacob, he deserves it.
Yeah, and over here in Europe, it's going to be Mystic from Mocket eSports, who takes the #1 spot. Interesting stat here, both in #1 and #1 in North America were both about 0.2 above the second place spot. It was 0.92 for Jacob, and it was like 0.7 for the second place of JNaps. Interesting here that both of these guys just kind of outdistanced their opponents so significantly here on the assist game.
Yeah, and then Mystic obviously on Mocket. Mocket didn't clinch one of the top 2 spots in Europe, but Mystic really did a good job keeping Mocket in it, along with K-Dop, who played very well this season. But Mystic, he wasn't afraid to score as well, but it's surprising to see him also come through on the assist game.
I mean, to see that big of a gap between them and second place, what is that for? Does that mean that they really just like to play as a team that much more than everybody, or are they just better at executing it? Because a lot of play we saw throughout this entire season was team play, but maybe these two teams are just that much farther ahead.
And then Oceania as well here. Express coming in again. The only stat we've seen so far that have been over a goal or a save or assist per game so far has been the OCE stats here, as Express comes in at 1.08.
Yeah, Alpha Sydney, they are a scary team in OCE. Express, Drippe coming in at #3 as well as getting that league goal scorer. But Express, you got to give it to him. 1.08 assists per game. Again, Oceania outpacing NA or EU in goals and assists.
Yeah, essentially we have that Express Drippe pair again, kind of like the way we saw Jacob and Fireburner over on NRG, just both of the top stats here for goals and for assists. So interesting to see these guys, once they make it, assuming they make it all the way to Worlds and get to play against NRG, these two high-flying offenses. I'm excited to see how it's going to pan out and whether they'll be able to take that one there from NRG. But saves per game, the next one on the board here. As we've been doing it the whole, with both goals and with assists, this is going to be per game, and it'll be a $500 prize pool as well, awarded to the player who racks up the highest saves per game in league play for their region. And starting things off in North America, Set to Destroy had a very rough season here, but holy cow, did Memory keep things out of his goal. Look at that, 2.89. That's almost 3 saves. He almost gets a save your medal per game.
Yeah, and right there you see Rizzo at 1.89, a full save ahead. Memory, a full save per game ahead. They only played 19 games because they got swept quite a bit. But Memory, he did a good job blocking shots, but as we'll see, save is not really indicative of team success over the season.
We did see plenty of, like we talked about it, Set to Destroy was so close in so many of their series to actually making it all the way and getting a win here and there. But their defense was on point. It was always their offense that was struggling. Memory, a huge part of that defensive wall.
And I mean, when you really think about it, they played that little amount of games in comparison because they got swept quite a bit, and he still destroyed everybody in saves. You know, and as much as we can probably say, hey, if you're making that many saves, you're doing something wrong, but there's still a sort of skill and a really, to be able to read that many shots and to still be there for your team that often. Memory still deserves it to be there for his team as much as he was, but sadly it was really just their lack of offense. They weren't able to bring it from defense to offense. Their defense seemed pretty good, though.
For sure. Yeah, moving on to Europe, we have Freaky on the top of the leaderboards here for saves per game, followed closely by Violent Panda, or excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong one, K-Dop and Zenzus there. Going to be rounding out the top. And again, 2.3, breaking that #1. It's been hard to break into the whole digits here, but now 2 guys in a row with double-digit saves per game.
Yeah, K-Dop finishing pretty high up as well for Mocket, but Freaky on Penta. Another team where players winning this, but their team fell short in the overall season. But still, Freaky, he put up some good stats, and saves was one of them, and that's what got him this savior of the season.
I think everybody this season, every team had their moment. Every team was able to show us where it was, whether it was really early in the season, or even some in the qualifiers. You're looking at some upsets in the qualifiers and then struggling in league play. And you don't want to take away from anyone's skill, which is why it's really cool that we're able to recognize players. They were really good in certain categories, and they may have just had a hard time gathering up with their team to still succeed at the goals.
Yeah, and really Penta missed out in the finals, in the final game of the season with Flipside. If had Flipside won, they would have been in.
Yeah, but then over here in Oceania, Outlast was going to be on the top of our leaderboards for the saves per game here. He's a player from Scylla eSports, and one of the most interesting things about this stat, we've been talking all season long about how saves is not a good indicator of a team that is actually playing well. It means that you're allowing the other team to have offensive pressure. All the players who won saves per game in their region are on teams that did not make it into the playoffs, and they were actually out of league play already for the season. And it's, I think you started to touch on this earlier, that like saves per game, it's you're buying your teams a time and a chance to mess up on offense. That we can have a lackluster offense because our defense is gonna like buy us out of situations and give us more opportunities. But you have to be able to capitalize on offense, because even here you're seeing these monster saving machines and their team's not qualifying.
Yeah, even with in North America, the stat sticks out to me. The only two teams in the league that had positive save differential, which means they had more saves than their opponent, was Set to Destroy and Genesis. And Set to Destroy was at plus 54. Plus 54
That's
differential.
actually insane.
Yeah, Genesis had plus 26, but everyone else was negative. So that just goes to show you, again, just reinforcing the point that getting saves, it's good that you're saving the ball, but you don't want to be forced to make a lot.
Yeah. And just in general, like talking about the stats, there were so much more goals scored in OCE and a lot less saves.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Like, there were so many more shots and goals happening, but where are the saves? How did both North America and Europe beat you in saves, but not in goals? What's happening?
We'll have to get Cheeseman to explain.
Different meta, man. We'll get to see how that works. But what we've all been waiting for here, MVP of each region for the regular season. As we've been waiting for this all season long. We had a panel of administrators and of analysts who all got to kind of put in nominees and vote on them. We have our results here for North America from NRG. No surprise to anybody. Jacob, the scoring machine, the monster player here, is Jacob, who gets the North American MVP.
Yeah, we saw it in the stat line. He finished third in goals and number one in assists, and it's no surprise with the success that NRG had this season and the stats that Jacob put up, that he is the MVP for North America. It is well deserved.
It's so easy to look at the guy that has his name across the screen when he makes that goal. It's so easy to just see that over and over and over again and give him all the attribution. But when you look at how Jacob plays, all of his unique approaches to any shot he makes, this is a prime example. No one would have ever been able to pull it off in league play. He gets the angles nobody can. He gets the passes nobody can. Jacob truly deserves MVP this season.
Yeah, 6-1. NRG finished on the season 6-1, and a huge part of that goes to this player, Jacob Cobb, on the job, rocking that foam hat, and really just impressing me. He's one of the players that I think had the biggest improvement from season 2 to season 3. I never expected this from Jacob. I always knew he was a good player, but this season he really showed that he was above and beyond almost literally every other player in NA getting this MVP award. Jacob rocking it and really well deserved.
I felt like in both seasons 1 and 2, people would talk about the Kings of Urban and then NRG once they got picked up, and I felt like I didn't see anything exemplary about their playstyle. I'm like, yeah, they managed to win. I don't know how though, because I didn't like see their playstyle. Wholly different team here as we watched Jacob play, and everyone we've talked about says they're scared of playing Jacob. They don't know what to do against this guy. Definitely carrying his team again to a number 1 seed. If they can do it 3 years in a row, that's going to be crazy. Absolutely deserving it there. But as we move over to Europe, a little bit more widespread in our voting. It was difficult to pin down who won because everyone had different ideas on who won, but it was K-Dop who comes out in the lead there from Mocket. As again, it was the player that does the most for your team individually, and here we saw K-Dop just putting Mocket on his shoulders and carrying them to where they are.
Although Mocket didn't have the most wild success out of any of the EU teams, when you look at the player that really contributed to the most of their team's success, you can't really argue against this pick. K-Dop had some weeks where he was the difference maker for Mocket, just putting in goal after goal, racking in the saves, really doing whatever he had to do to get Mocket that W.
He had 30 goals this season with 70 saves all around the pitch from front to back. And when you're thinking about who is the most valuable player on the team, what player do we feel like if it wasn't for him, their team might have struggled? And honestly, I want to say it's K-Dop. I mean, we're agreeing on it right now. Yep. And he was somebody that I had voted for. And it's just one of those situations of, I think he's the one that really kept Maka alive and kept them in the runnings, because they didn't have the season that we expected. Gibbs really beefed him up early on, and I expected them as a whole to just show up.
Yeah.
But really, I felt K-Dop was the one that helped his team to ensure that they were able to pull that off.
And he only lost out by a single goal to be the golden striker for Europe. He was literally that 0-second goal, the final goal scored of the regular season in Europe by Cooks with 0 seconds. That was the difference between K-Dop finishing #1 and getting golden striker and Cookser. So K-Dop, he really does deserve this for Europe. So congratulations, K-Dop. You did it, man.
He does it there. Europe MVP in the books. We have one more to talk about here from Oceania. We don't have any footage of this guy playing, but we talked about him earlier. Drippe from Alpha Sydney, the #1 seed, the team everybody's talking about. When we talked to Yummy Cheeseman, when he came on the show and was talking to us about the OCE scene, it was Alpha Sydney that is the team that he's putting the most faith behind to possibly take the wins off of the North American and European teams here at the Worlds.
Yeah, he said there was a bunch of, it was very close, obviously in OCE. Soma was another player you mentioned, and Express. We saw Express finishing #1 in assists, very tight. But Drippe, massive goals per game, really just contributing to the success of his team, scoring the most out of anyone else and locking up his team a top 4 spot. And they'll have their regional champions coming up May 21st, I believe. But Drippe coming up big for his team, deserving this MVP award.
Now we got 2 more awards that we have not awarded today. We have obviously the MVP of the championships, which we can't award yet, and also the DFH Community Award, which will be awarded at the LAN at Worlds. So be definitely tuning in for that if you want to see who wins that. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to be setting the stage for the playoffs for North America and for Europe. Who's in, who's out, we'll talk all about it. It'll be great. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Solar eclipses. Solar eclipses. Solar eclipses. Caught up in your gravity, always end up lost in your wake. Intoxicated, maybe we get started again. Caught up in your gravity, always end up lost in your wake. Intoxicated, maybe we get started.
Change, I can remember all the reasons why we went separate ways. Feeling all alone in your company, keeping you captive with your chains.
We're night and day, solar eclipses. Too afraid to look, too scared to miss it. We're night and day, solar eclipses. Solar eclipses. Solar eclipses. Caught up in your gravity, always end up lost in your wake. Intoxicated, maybe we get started again. Caught up in your gravity, always end up lost in your wake. Intoxicated, maybe we get started again. Tomorrow we build, depends on the future we want, we can make it as real. Maybe we will, though, give up the ego. Making it feel good. Too scared to just let it go. Too scared to just let it go. Tomorrow we build, depends on the future we want, we can make it as real. Maybe we will, though, give up the ego.
Welcome back to RLCS Overtime, ladies and gentlemen, where we just got done handing out awards for the regular season. It was lots of fun, and if you thought that was fun, definitely stay tuned to the show where we are going to have a nice announcement at the end, a big one for what's coming up in the summer. It's going to be great, but guys, playoff time now. We've got so much here in the regional championships on the line. It's a best of 7 single elimination, auto bids on the line now. Guys, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's no second chances with single elim coming into play. These first round games, critically important because whoever wins in those first rounds, they lock up their world championship bid. But then the very next round, you're fighting for that top 2 spot. And as we know, recently announced, if you finish in the top 2 in North America, you finish top 2 in Europe, you're going to automatically secure your spot in Season 4 League Play of RLCS. So a lot on the line this weekend.
And in previous seasons, by the time they'd qualified for LAN, sometimes we'd see some teams that wouldn't particularly fall off, but we know they had that big, sigh of relief. And they're like, you know what, we're just kind of play and see where things fall off for here. And then, knowing you kind of have different opinions as to who you think you will falter to in your opposite region. So some teams were like, maybe I don't want this seed. And maybe we'll see how it goes. But now, if you make top 2, that reinvite, that's huge for these teams.
Absolutely, a very, very big, important reason to play. An incentive to play. We'll look at the bracket, the way it's panned out. 2 teams have already qualified for the LAN here in North America. That is NRG and Atelier. But Genesis, Selfless, G2 Esports, and Denial all having to play to keep their hopes and dreams alive. And then we'll have another chance to play for auto qualification into Season 4. The prize pool that these guys are playing for right now, $10,000 on the line for first place, $6,500 for second place, and it goes down from there. But as we said, the big reason these guys want to play right now is that auto qualification into LAN and then the qualification into Season 4.
Yeah, every single round having huge implications. Even there, you see 10,000 for first, 6,500 for second. So a big jump in prize pool. So round 1, just trying to get that Worlds bid. And then round 2, trying to lock in your spot for the next season in the final round, playing for that number 1 seed in your region, fighting for the title of champion, and then fighting for that extra cash. So every single round is going to be fun to watch.
I imagine the cash at that point is like the icing on the cake. It's like you've got to bid to next season and you're going into LAN top 2 seeds. Oh, and by the way, here's like $10,000. Don't worry about it. Like just relax until LAN. You just buy yourself some nice dinners, Yep.
Well, let's talk about round number 1, because the big thing here, you lose here, single elimination, best of 7. You have at least 4 tries to get wins over your opponents. But if you lose in that first round, you're done for the season. And the first round we're going to talk about here, Genesis versus Selfless. This is one team that started off super, super hot in the regular season. Another team that started off a bit quiet but has ramped up so dramatically at the end of the regular season. Guys, talk to me about Genesis versus Selfless.
Yeah, this was a week 1 matchup. And Genesis lost this 3-1 to Selfless. Selfless getting a really big win there. You saw Timmy had that 0-second goal. Then 2 games went to overtime. So this was just a neck and neck battle that was so close between these 2 teams, but Selfless ended up taking it 3-1 over Genesis.
When you just look at their play style, Selfless is clean. Especially when they're on, they are there. They're there for every ball. They contest it. Their rotations are tight. And Genesis almost seems to be like the counter players. They're always messing things up. They're getting the bumps. They're getting shots they're not prepared for. They're not nearly as clinical, which I think makes it a little difficult to deal with them because they're getting bumps. They're moving around. Their rotations aren't nearly as predictive. And it makes it really difficult for teams to go against Genesis.
Yeah, Genesis, again, Selfless, look at that. Every single win there. Every game, a 1-goal game. One of them scoring in 0 seconds, 2 other overtime goals. So this one's about as close as you can get. But near the tail end of the season, they both kind of had opposite stories. Selfless started out 4-0 and then ended up losing their final games. And then Genesis, they ended up beating G2 and Denial and NRG all in a row near the end of the season to secure their spot in the top 6. So Genesis is hot. Selfless is not right now, but we've seen how good Selfless can play.
No, we have such a clash of styles, as you say, kind of this clinical, clean rotations. They've been that way for 2 seasons now of Selfless, and then they just kind of haphazard victory through chaos. We're bumping each other, we're arguing with each other. Like, even when we win, they're still arguing on Twitter. It's strange to watch these Genesis boys play. But one team started off hot, another team ramping up now, and this was a week 1 matchup. We are we are many weeks, we're 2 months away from that game that happened. How much can we look at that particular match and use it as an indicator of what's going to happen here, and who do you guys think is going to make it?
Yeah, if anything, for me, I think that Genesis is the better team right now. They took out NRG, they took out G2, they took out Denial, they have been winning. But Selfless, on the other hand, they've fallen off a little bit, and this series was so close. So I think Genesis has the upper hand in this, even though they are the lower seed.
I think that the issue for me with Genesis is their dedication. We know that they've struggled as a team to just be cohesive, even as personalities and as players. it's nothing to hide. I think we all know.
Yeah.
They don't always
They're salty.
They don't always agree.
Chrome is salty. He's a salty guy.
They-
Insel is salty. They like being
They know it
salty.
about themselves. They named their team Toxic
Yeah,
Waste
that was
before they
before
changed back to
They
Genesis.
legitimately used to be called Toxic Waste, and they're the ones that name themselves.
Yeah.
They're like, we know it, where we just like, we get upset over things, which is fine, it's just passion. But I think that with this week off the break, we've shown that really makes teams that like to get, put their head down and practice, it really shows for them. And I think Selfless is one of those teams.
Well, and also, like, if we're talking about people who practice not practicing, Insel is the best at it. Like, he on no practice, he could just show up and play and do really well. I don't know how
It's
it
almost
works.
infuriating.
Yeah. As someone who tries really hard to be good at this game, to watch him just like not try and still be carrying his team.
13 hours in 2 weeks, shows up, yeah, sure, I'll score, I'll get
Yeah.
player of the week, whatever.
And then I think we talk so much about consistency, and I think Genesis, they've been consistent here at the end. They are definitely on a hot streak, but I think this week off could be the nail in the coffin. I think Selfless will do it, but I don't really know. At this point, nothing's going to surprise me in these playoffs.
But either way, keep your eye on Twitter because it's probably going to be juicy.
It's
It's
going
going to be juicy.
Whether they win or lose, the
Get your
salt mines
popcorn.
will open. Just
man.
carts of it.
But now, moving on to the other match, the other huge story here, G2, 2 seasons in a row, has not auto-qualified, have not made it in the top 2. Last season, they actually just got dropped out in the league play. Now they have a chance to play G2 versus Denial. This is our other matchup. One of these teams will not be going to land.
This is this is going to be a struggle as a whole. G2 really fell apart their final week. There was a disconnect issue with Kronovi, and it seemed to really throw him for a loop. But you have to be ready for those things. As much as it's not particularly his fault, a situation may have happened. You need to learn to roll the punches. And him falling apart that last week, it really hurt them. I mean, they are now, the team that has. We didn't see him in season 2, and everyone was really upset about it. And now we see them trying to do it for season 3. But Denial, I've yet to see a week from them where I was really impressed.
Yeah, you said it. Denial hasn't really impressed me much this season, but Kronovi and G2, this is their 4th chance. Gibbs talked about it. They've had 3 series where if they would just win, they are in to the World Championship, and they couldn't do it. And then Denial, and just looking at these box scores, Jay Naps scored 4 out of 6 of these goals, Rizzo scoring the other 2. Kronovi was very quiet this series, but as for Denial, Sad Jr. was the only one scoring any goals. But really the story here, in my opinion, is G2. This is their 4th opportunity to secure their spot in the World Championship and get redemption from their complete disappointment in season 2.
Well, and this match happened in week number 1, and it's easy to look at it and be like, that was so long ago, the teams have changed, and for G2 it is. They started off hot and then have had some issues here in the end of the season. But the big difference between this match and the last match we were talking about, Denial really hasn't changed all that much.
Yeah.
They are still this team that we're still waiting to see you if you're going to do well, and they're still not really showing up. So while I would not be surprised to see Denial make it through because G2 is still just kind of falling apart, I could also see, as we talked about the last match, this week off, this time to prepare, G2 really putting in the grind and coming out guns a-blazing, beating Denial again, maybe even 4-0.
When G2 connects and when they are on, they hands down are the best team. Like the passing plays I saw from them, they were things I'd never seen before. But again, when you're doing things that difficult and that high risk, it's all about consistency. And it's kind of like, you watch G2 kind of go down and Denial's just been kind of flat. It's like, are they going to meet at a point where they're actually really close in skill? Or is G2 going to just do everything they can to make sure they come out as hot as possible?
And Denial, they did, in their final week of league play, they took out Atelier, who is the number 2 seed in North America. So it's not like they haven't done anything. It was just like you said, Carpet. They just haven't really impressed me with anything that they've done. They haven't really had any commanding victories that I've seen against any top teams in North America. So, and also maybe Rizzo, if he had stopped playing with John Sandman and Wolfless so much, maybe they would have gotten that top 2 seed. Who knows?
Oh, man.
Are you blaming John Salmon?
I'm not blaming that.
Are
I'm
they
blaming
sucking the
Rizzo.
skill out of Rizzo?
I think I just saw a video. Is Wolfless unboostable? Rizzo just practice more with your teammates, man.
They'll get there. Now, the interesting thing you pointed out, Denial did beat Atelier in the final week. G2, back in week 1, beat Atelier. And if the winner of G2 versus Denial faces off against Atelier in round number 2 of the playoffs. So either way, Atelier has to face off against a team that they lost to in the regular season.
Yeah.
Who do you guys think that team's going to be, and how is Atelier going to be faring up against them here?
So I, in my heart of hearts, believe that it is going to be G2. They are too good not to make it past denial. We saw their brilliance in the first weeks with their passing plays, and I expect with it all on the line, Kronovi, he's had some epic failures, but he's also had some really huge moments coming in season 1, winning it all, winning a BMW at E3. He can step up, and I think J Naps and Rizzo, there's too much talent on that squad to lose out. So I think we'll see G2 and Atelier get matched up together, and we all know how that series played out with the reverse sweep in favor of G2. That's going to be an awesome game.
I don't know. I think with Gibbs having too many bad dates with Set to Destroy and needing to take that break, I feel the same with G2. After feeling so hopeful and then getting crushed so many times, whether it be they choke in a certain situation or we don't see them at all at LAN. I think Atelier is the kind of team that with less pressure, they are able to just do their thing. Matt and Sizz, such a good pair. I know I've talked them up all season, and for good reason. Here they are now, all auto-qualified for LAN in one of the top 2 spots in this regional playoffs. And with Turtle as well, a player that I think has just always done a good job of just filling the field.
He's always been a fantastic teammate. He's a super smart player. He always, sometimes he likes to take too much time in his play, but more often than not, he's making the right decisions. And he is a ferocious opponent, always going for these dribbles, these mind games, just a solid player all around. And we saw Matt and Sizz in season 1 when they were both on Selfless, finishing last both times. It's great to see them still sticking together all the way in season 3 and now experiencing success now that they have Turtle on their squad, that solid third member finally.
Wait, I didn't get an answer from you though. Who do you think's making it through from G2 and Denial?
No.
G2, right? That's what you said.
No,
right?
you said
G2 and Atelier or Denial?
G2 and Denial. You just said you've been on too many bad days with G2.
I think G2, just because in general, to kind of James was saying, I just haven't been that impressed with Denial, and I don't know if this is the time that they really would have put their heads down and grinded. I really hope so. I would love to see the Denial that I was waiting for all season show up now. First of all, how cool would that be? Second of all, I know how skilled those 3 players are. They just really haven't been clicking together individually. They've just been doing their one-off things. And kind of the meta of Rocket League shuts those solo plays down pretty hard.
I have no idea. This is all of the matches we have to talk about today. I think this one is the one I have the most difficulty really pinning down a winner. I would not be surprised to see Denial make it through, just given the way that G2 has been playing over the past few weeks. And it'd be super cool to see an all-Canadian roster make it into Worlds that just give a whole entire nation a team just distinctly to root for. Let's root for Denial here. But I don't know. That one's hard. I think I'm going to go with G2 just because it's so hard to pick against Kronovia right now. But
and between those two, I think G2 is going to come up against Atelier as well. I think we will see G2 make it all the way to the finals.
I would probably put my bet on Atelier mostly because just the tone of that roster, just how much fun they can have. I know the 3 individuals, and even as a pair, in one of the interviews, Turtle had the nicest way he could describe Sizz was a character. He said Sizz is a character, right? And Sizz, if anyone's met the guy, he's
that's because Sizz is also making videos with Rizzo now, and Sandman and Wolfless. I think that's going to be the difference maker. Is he's practiced less because he's making more videos. G2 is going to come out. Rizzo's practiced more. They're going to take it.
Maybe F2 is going to be the one that's going to show up next in season 4. You know?
How did it happen? How did they even get in? They didn't even qualify for league play. But on the other side, Genesis versus Selfless. Okay, these guys. Who's winning this one, and how are they facing off against NRG?
I think this side of the bracket is actually going to be filled with a lot of surprises because Genesis, they've kind of only done enough to get to this point. I mean, I've been talking with Classics and Insel and Chrome just on and off throughout the season, and they've never been worried about making the top 6 and getting to this point. They've always had full confidence in themselves, and honestly, seeing that the way they've played, beating NRG, beating G2, the way that they did, I would not be surprised to see these guys make top 2 because they've already beat NRG once. I think they've narrowly lost to Selfless, so I think that's going to be one of the most surprising sides of the bracket. That could be a huge upset if Genesis makes it all the way to the final.
I don't really know who to choose. I think Genesis has a slightly more unique play style and the kind of bumps they go for. We see a lot more payoffs in their demolitions than we do for most North American teams. Selfless is a team, I think, just from what I saw in the beginning, going 4-0 so early on against monstrous teams. I think for me, having that confidence, if I was them on a player, I'm like, well, we can do it. We've done it before, and we just kind of fell off. What do we have to do to fix ourselves? What did we do wrong? I think that is going to give the advantage to Selfless, and I got to give it to them.
Oh, wow.
All right, quickly, before we go to break, who's our North American champion?
I don't know.
I said quickly.
But NRG.
NRG?
NRG.
I'll go with NRG too. I think they can do it. They can get the sweep, the 3 seasons in a row, be North American champions. I'm excited to see if they can pull it off. We will find out this weekend, but we got Europe to talk about next. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be a great break here, and it'll be another great segment. We'll see you in a bit.
Close eyes and body see through. Time flies when I'm with you. Looming below the sun, holding me like a gun. Sweat and rain fall in a tree. Grass can wait eternity. Follow me through the clouds. We're never coming down. Hand in hand under the moon, day and night, journey with you. Out of body, far out. We're never coming down,
Welcome back to RLCS Overtime. We just got done talking about the North American playoffs, and we're about to talk about Europe. If you are liking what you're seeing, definitely stay tuned. We have a nice, exciting announcement for the summer coming up. Guys, how you doing so far?
So far, so good.
So far.
You know, just covering the action.
Could be completely downhill from here, but you know.
It was downhill from the start.
I'm
let's
making
be honest.
decisions. I'm making decisions that I don't want to make. A lot of times I don't want to pick between these two teams, especially because, as much as I love Rocket League and I love other pro teams, consistency is still the thing that everyone's striving to get. And we see so many teams, feels like they're going to do well, and then they crush our hearts, and then I cry a lot. And
Are
then
you talking about flip side?
I'm talking about a lot of teams, but they're one. They're definitely one that has hurt me too
Yeah.
many times.
Oh man, but it is a best of 7 single elimination bracket here. We can take a look at the bracket as it will stand for Europe. 2 teams are in. Northern Gaming and Leftovers have already qualified for the World Championships, but Gale Force, Mocket, Flipside Tactics, and Resonance are playing to get in, and then those 4 teams will be playing for auto qualification for Season 4.
Yeah, again, Flipside versus Resonant. That was a Week 5 matchup. Gale Force versus Mocket. Then also that big storyline of the Leftovers making it in, grabbing that number 2 spot.
Even if you haven't watched all season and you look at this bracket and you see a team called the Leftovers, qualified for LAN, already in one of the top seeds, you already know the story. You already can tell what's going on, and you know that this is awesome.
Yep, absolutely. The prize pool these guys playing for $10,000 for first place and $6,500 for second place. But the money, as we said in the last segment, kind of almost secondary to the fact that winning this qualifies you for Season 4, extending your Rocket League career, guaranteeing that. And it's the first season they've been able to do that.
Yeah, this is the first time we're implementing that auto qualification aspect. And so again, we talked about it in the last segment, but maybe you're just tuning in. This first round of the EU and NA Regional Championship, the first round of the championship, if you win, then you have locked up top 4 in your region and you're guaranteed to go to the World Championship that's going to be in Los Angeles. If you win the next round and get top 2, then you have guaranteed yourself a spot in Season 4 league play. So you get to avoid that whole qualifier situation, which we know can be devastating to some favorite teams. We all remember what happened to Iris this season, and then Selfless the previous season in North America. So locking up a bid into league play in the next season is huge.
Yeah, so many teams talk about that the qualifiers are actually the part of Rocket League, of RLCS that they fear the most.
Yeah.
Because if you mess up there, you're done.
Set
you don't
to
get to play the
destroy.
whole season.
They won both of they beat Atelier and they beat Iris. So set to destroy. They went 0-7 in league play, but on the qualifier day, they played quite well. Probably because they had not as much to fear as the
I
other
mean,
guys.
it's definitely like, it's a proving grounds. I mean, qualifiers like, hey, everybody in the world's going to play. Good luck.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those, all it takes is like one bad day, one off day. You have to show up at your prime. And that's why I think players fear it the most, is because in league play, if you make a mistake week 2 or you have an off week, you're like, hey, it's cool. We're gonna show up week 3, 4, and 5, and we're gonna dominate, and we're gonna make top 2.
Market,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. That team that might have struggled, or Genesis, right? Like they struggled a bit in the beginning, and they proved their worth towards the end. But in qualifiers, you don't get that.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
So-
being able to skip the qualifiers would be just such a breath of relief for all of these teams. So we will see who's able to make it, but they got to qualify for the LAN first. And we'll talk about this first matchup: Gale Force versus Mocket. Two teams we've been following closely all season. And one of these teams will be going home. One of these teams will qualify for LA.
Violent Panda has had an amazing season. Really, when we were talking about MVPs in Europe, his name was in the conversation. He getting a lot of assists, a lot of goals, just contributing quite a bit to his team success. And again, you saw him scoring that, or I think he scored that overtime goal. I didn't catch it, but overall, this was a week 1 matchup, 3-1 victory for at the time Pocket Aces, now Gale Force. They manhandled Mocket.
And Mocket, again, we talked about it a little bit prior. Gibbs really, he spoke well of Mocket. He thought going into this, they were it. They were the team that was just going to dominate, and they really haven't. Now, what that does mean to me is that they have the potential, they have the skill. They just had a little bit of a rough patch for about a month and a half.
Yeah, and
which is long.
I think the one game that Mocket won was Wasteland, I believe. It's not. I think the only, and that was also a Gale Force pick.
Yep.
So they lost the one pick that they made pretty severely, 4-1 there. But overall, Gale Force played much better than Mocket in this series. K-Dop was the saving grace on Mocket. He scored 4 out of the 6 goals for Mocket, and he is a great player. But really, if Mocket hopes to stand a chance here, in my opinion, in this first round matchup, then they really need Fairy Peak to step up. They need to have that Mocket Fairy Peak connection. Mystic has always been pretty good, at least this season, just being a contributor to the offense from the assist point of view and just playing solid defense. But Fairy Peak has had just games where he's been so quiet.
Now, much like the stories we talked about in North America, these teams, Gale Force started off very, very hot. They were the longest streak of undefeated teams in Europe. They're the last team to actually lose a match. Where Mocket started off rough, but in the final week, Mocket goes 2-0 and Gale Force goes 0-2. Mocket being one of the only teams to get a win off the leftovers there. It took them 5 games, but they did manage to get it. So as we look into this playoff matchup, who's hot? Who's moving forward here?
It is a tough one. It is a tough one. But we're talking about Violent Panda and Pashy. They're under a new banner, being on Gale Force this season, playing under that sponsor. They have Chassette now instead of Devo, but they finished second in the World Championship last season. I still think they're the team to beat in this matchup. I'm going to give it to Gale Force over Mocket in this one. I think this is where Mocket's season ends.
Well, I definitely agree with you. K-Dop, MVP, right? The guy is a god. He's really good at what he does, and he's got a team to follow suit. But, I've mentioned it a billion times, and I'm sure everybody hates me at this point, but if you can't show me consistency throughout all of league play, it's going to be hard for me to think, wow, they're going to be able to pull it off. And even if in the last week you can swap it, if we've seen anything, getting a week off really changes everything. Even midseason mayhem, everything changes after midseason mayhem. That's when we see teams fall off or turn on, because they get that week off to relax. They don't have that recently. It hasn't been 7 days since they
So
got beat last.
are you going to pick Maka?
No, I'm picking Gale Force.
You're picking Gale Force.
Picking Gale
But
Force.
one thing I will just say, just playing devil's advocate here, we've heard people talking, Shogun's talked a lot about how Gale Force is a team that struggles with the nerves. When they're in a situation where everything's on the line, some of their players can really, really struggle, and everything's on the line here. This is the situation. If there was a match that I could see Gale Force dropping to Mocket, this is it. Again, though, I'm not going to be surprised in either direction of how that match goes. Moving on to the other match, Flipside versus Resonant. This is a super interesting story to me.
Yes.
The last match of league play was Flipside versus Resonant, where Resonant won in 5 games. Could we see a situation here where Flipside doesn't even make it to LAN?
Resident won to a flip side that I'd never seen before.
Yes.
It was a very bad flip side. I've never seen Cooksier miss
Yeah,
anything.
he had that wide open net
and he
miss.
missed like 7 things.
And Markey also played dismally. He was in the race to finish as the Golden Striker, him and Cooks, and he did almost nothing in this series. Greasy scored 6 out of the 10 goals, Cooks scoring the other 3. Markey had a very bad series, but like you were saying, for Flipside, they didn't have much to play for. They definitely wanted to beat Resident because Resident is one of the teams that came into this season as a top 3 team. People forget about that. They forget that Resident was considered that good. And this one going all the way to Game 5. But really, Flipside, they had just lost to Northern Gaming. Had they beat Northern Gaming in the previous series, they would have finished in a top 2 spot and would have had that World Championship bid locked up. So like you were saying, Wade, this one is a really interesting series to watch because it was the last series played and Flipside lost and looked bad.
Well, and we've talked kind of all season that it's been Greasy Meister, the newest member of the Flipside roster, has been the player we're like, we're waiting for him to step up. We're waiting to see how he plays and how can he play at the level that Markey and Cooks are playing. And here you can see that 6 goals from Greasy Meister. He did everything he could to try and get them the win here, and it still was not quite enough. It was Cookser and Markey, the 2 most consistent players maybe in all of Rocket League, who fell apart in this week. And who do you guys think Resident will be able to do it 2 times in a row?
Well, if there's anything I've learned about Flipside, it's don't count them out. When we talk about consistency, they are pretty darn consistent. Getting 2nd place in the first World Championship, getting 1st in Season 2. I think and it's all on the line for them too. That's when they perform their best, because in both of the World Championships, they got knocked into the lower bracket very early on. So coming into this series with everything on the line, I think Flipside is going to step up, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this really going in a big landslide to Flipside, like a 3-0 shutout type situation.
Now, I think Flipside just hasn't admitted they only do well under pressure, so they deliberately put themselves in the worst positions. Every LAN, let's just get in the lower.
Let's lose quick.
Let's lose immediately. We'll get in the lower bracket right away, and then we'll have pressure on us every game, and then we'll make it to the finals.
And then Cooks looks like he's about to pass out every single series.
And then Season 2, they're like, it worked. Let's do it again. We were so close, we came in 2nd. So then they do it again, and it works for them in unfathomable fashion. They were able to pull it off in Season 2.
Going up against the team that beat them, both World Championships.
Oh, God. So I think, honestly, they're a team that does well the moment they need to. They usually do well when they're not. And the only fear of me picking Flipside, I'm going to pick them, but my only fear is that I've never seen them perform that bad. I don't know what's wrong.
Scary.
I feel like I have to pick Flipside just because of the lore of Rocket League. I can't pick against Flipside when they're going up against Resident eSports. I've only seen this team in 1 league play. It's this one here. But the last time we saw Flipside on this stage, they got beaten by this exact team, and that makes it just so. I don't know what's going to happen. I have to pick Flipside, but it's the most uncomfortable I've ever been picking Flipside.
That was the worst we ever seen them play.
Yeah. So we'll see if they're able to pull it off. Now, looking forward to, we've picked Gale Force to be winning the first round, and they will go up against Northern Gaming. So, Northern Gaming and Leftovers are already in. How do you feel like this is going to be going if we see Gale Force versus Northern Gaming?
So this is another interesting matchup because Northern picked up Devo. Devo used to be the teammate of Pashy and Violent Panda, and it's kind of funny because Northern came in 3rd both World Championships, and for some reason Devo, even after finishing 2nd with Pashy and Violent Panda, still decided to jump ship over to Northern Gaming. I think he recognizes what is also my opinion, that Remco and Maestro are out of this world good. They're just step above the rest.
Well, last
So-
time we saw these two teams play, well, the last time we saw Northern Gaming play, last time we saw Gale Force play was against each other, 3-1 in favor of Northern Gaming there in week 5. So, do you think Northern Gaming can continue that, or is Gale Force going to be able to bounce back?
Well, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen because I've heard some rumors that Maestro actually might not be able to attend the World Championship, and they might have to use Turbo Pulsa, their sub, instead. So if that is the case,
With the World Championship or the regional
for both,
championships?
for
Wow.
both, so that's
a huge
yeah,
game
that
changer.
could. So it's been rumors. So we'll see if that is the case. If that is the case, I'm definitely going to give that to Gale Force. But if Maestro does end up playing, which I am praying and hoping for, then I think it's going to be Northern.
I think Northern, just in general, Remco and Maestro have been playing together since the beginning. But there's one thing I know about Pashy. He loves to win.
Sure.
He guns it for the top. He's the kind of guy that I come in second. All right, I just came in first last. He's like, I just came in last place. I'm just the best of the last place players, which I think is a good drive for him, which is why he still is here, still competing. Him and Violent Panda have kind of become another pair to look at, another pair to keep an eye out for. Through 2 seasons, they've been working really well. But I genuinely think that in general, Northern Gaming being as strong as they've been, they're going to take that down and they're going to move on.
Now, moving over to the other side of the bracket, we thought we're picking flip sides, the most uncomfortable we've ever been picking flip side here, but they're going up against the Leftovers, assuming they get the win over Resonant. The most memorable series of league play, at least in my mind, was the reverse sweep of the Leftovers over flip side. Do they get their revenge on the Leftovers if that happens?
The Leftovers rode that wave of week 1 all the way to today.
Yep.
Getting that win versus Northern and Flipside was so key. And then obviously that Gale Force win, no one thought the Leftovers were gonna be in this situation. Where does their story end? That's the question. If they win now with so much on the line, if they win, get top 2, we'll see them again in season 4. But I don't know. I think they have been. I love those players. I think they certainly deserve to be here. But I think they have been overperforming. Like, Snasky himself said it. When coming into the league, who did they think they were going to beat? Cownos and Penta.
Yep.
And I think they lost.
They hold the head-to-head tiebreaker over everybody
Yes,
right now. These
yes.
guys are crazy. So, okay, so we've talked about all the matches. We've talked about some potential matches that might not happen. Quickly before we go to break, who wins? This is so much harder than North America. Who is the European regional champion?
Man, I think if Maestro plays, it's going to be Northern Gaming. If not, I think it's Flipside.
Okay, I want to take it and give it to Leftovers only because in the interview, when Snasky was talking about we're down 2-0 against Flipside, and we're in comms, we're like, hey, let's reverse sweep Flipside, and then we do it,
Right.
And then they did it again,
3 times
and again, and I think it's really easy to underestimate them. But again, when you're talking about consistency, they are right now the most consistent team in Europe.
Yeah.
They're doing fantastically.
They ended the season reverse sweeping Gale Force. This
Yeah.
is how the
They
Leftovers
cut
like
it
to play.
too close, man.
Yeah.
They cut it too close.
At the risk of Maestro not being there, I think it will actually be Leftovers. It's going to catch everybody off guard, but I'm going to go with Leftovers.
Wow.
I-
if you get that right, then I will get you another wizard hat. You'll
I don't
get,
want
and
that.
I'll bejewel it.
Give me a good one.
bejeweled wizard
that
hat.
thing is ugly, dude. Give me a good wizard hat. Dude.
All right.
I hate that thing.
Handcrafted.
We'll go Wizard Hat shopping after this. It's either Gale Force or Leftovers for me. I'll go with Leftovers just
Oh
for the
my
fun of it
goodness.
here. But who knows how it's going to be. That's going to our playoff wrap up, though. Definitely tune in this weekend to find out who our regional champions are for North America and for Europe. We got one more thing coming up, one more exciting announcement here on RLCS Overtime. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. It'll be great. See you in a second.
Took me down, and you're feeling alone. So long, darling. Right here and now, we can try this again. If you're here.
Welcome back to RLCS Overtime. We've gotten done talking about the playoffs. It's been a great show. How you feeling, guys?
Super good.
Super
right now,
good.
talking about the regional championships for North America and Europe. So much on the line. Prize pool, bid for the World Championship, bids for Season 4 of League Play. A lot on the line, so I'm happy.
I'm getting stressed. I'm definitely getting a little anxiety just watching all these players have to deal with it. But it's good. It does feel good. It's exciting.
Now he's stressed out. Yep, that's carpet right now, guys. But we've had an exciting announcement. We've been teasing it the entire show. Here it is, guys. We've partnered with Brisk and 7-Eleven to bring you more exciting Rocket League play in the off-season. The Brisk 7-Eleven RLCS Summer Series, guys. This is an invitational tournament for 8 teams, but you guys in Twitch chat get to influence 2 of those teams per region based on this season and how much you cheer for the team captains, as you have been doing during league play. That continues right now. Once the World Championships are over, the 2 teams that have the most cheers will be auto-qualified to play the Brisk Summer Series.
Yep, so that means for North America, let's imagine they're in a tournament. The top 2 teams that got cheered for, the captains, getting to come back and play. And then 6 other teams will be invited to participate in an 8-team tournament, and it's going to be pretty awesome. We've got 3 different tournaments all throughout the summer, holding this over till Season 4, and a lot of money on the line as well, so it's going to be fun.
And as much as I really don't like giving Twitch chat any kind of power, it scares me to no end. I think, honestly, no matter who you vote for, it's going to be great. Every team is fantastic, even ones that may have underperformed throughout league play. They still made it to top 8. You made it to league play. You're a great team, so I'm still stoked. I'm actually kind of excited to see what chat picks for the very first time.
Yeah, it might. Is it a troll pick or is it a real pick? And that's what we're going to see.
No, and it's like, you know, there's some teams that be like, if they pick Set to Destroy, it'd be like, oh, but they went 0-7. But like Carpet said, they made top 8. They're still eligible here. We can see them again in the Brisk Summer Series. As James said, there are 3 tournaments total, so be sure to tune into all of the Brisk 7-Eleven RLCS Summer Series taking place on June 25th, July 9th, and August 6th, right here on twitch.tv/Rocket League.
Yep, so 3 different tournaments. They're just going to go down on one day. So 3 tournaments, 3 days of action, and then the prize pool is going to be pretty sweet. I had mentioned it earlier, 15K total prize pool. That's going to be split up 5K for each tournament. So it's a big chunk of change for these guys.
And what I think is really cool, especially, there's not a lot of top tier tournaments that go on between each season, and there's always a roster sweep or a roster shuffle. You always see, as soon as the season ends, no matter how good a team is, sometimes they just break up, or you lose one player, right? So I think it's going to be a really cool way, and different tiers throughout the kind of in between season, preseason, I should say, to test out your new rosters.
It'll be a good way to kind of get a litmus test on how well these rosters playing. But you mentioned the 15K prize pool. That prize pool can still be influenced. The way that you guys are picking the teams is also the way that you can affect the prize pool. If we had 150,000 bits cheered during Season 3, that'll add $1,000 to the first tournament. And if we get 250,000 bits, that adds $1,000 to the second tournament. And then if we have 400,000, that's an extra 1,000 on top of the third. Total of 3K more dollars you guys can give the players just by cheering during Season 3 of RLCS.
Yeah, and this is all to support the players playing in the RLCS, playing Rocket League at the highest level. When you're cheering these bits, those bits are going to those players directly. And then not only that, if we hit those goals, then we're adding to the prize pool for the players. So this is all for the players, trying to get them more incentivized to give us some awesome Rocket League gameplay to watch, and also just supporting them in general. So it's fun
be sure to put the team captain on there, because it's easy. You can cheer and not put a team captain
forget.
on. Yeah, always put a team captain. It's free. It doesn't charge you anything.
Kronovi.
Yeah, if you've already bought the bits, it's free to give it to a specific team captain, which would be a lot of fun there.
Got some James bias already coming out.
I was just using an example.
Oh, what an example, James.
What if it was hashtag?
I mean, if I had to pick an example, probably pick Kronovi too. But guys, Brisk Watermelon Lemonade is available at 7-Eleven for a limited time only, so get yours now. I'm gonna go try some later, I think. Well, I'm just excited to. I don't know.
We had talked
watermelon and lemonade. It's but this watermelon is not. It's got lemon in the name, so I get. Couldn't they call it watermelon?
Would it be Wallenade or Lettermelon?
I think
really how
the
you would.
least
I want it to be
confusing is
watermelon.
definitely watermelon lemonade, and they went with that. So
I'm a little confused. Which one is it? Is it watermelon or lemonade? It's not watermelon and lemonade.
They just fuse
Watermelon?
them together, man.
lemonade, watermelon lemonade.
Okay, it makes sense now.
Lemonade.
Lemonade. Watermelonade. How about that?
There you go.
We'll go
it
with
is.
that. I don't know.
Watermelonade.
It's been exciting. I can't wait to try some of that stuff myself. But guys, it's been a great show of RLCS Overtime. Be sure to tune in to the regional championships this weekend. It'll be exciting to see who wins. Does NRG become 3-time North American champions? I cannot wait to find out. We'll see you there. Stay safe and have a good day.